I think I'll miss Kissanime. Let's be honest, it was a sketchy place. It almost always had lewd advertisements, which they had the decency to let you hide, but you gotta be prepared for a pop-up with every click you made, and depending on the server you were using, you might still end up with pop-ups and lewd ads when you try to pause a video. But what did you get when you got past all that? A vast collection of anime, most of which you could download, which I did en masse, possibly as a result of my poor person mentality, possibly because I knew deep down this day would come. We can't be too upset though, because no matter how you look at this, it is the just result. On the one hand, Kissanime is the reason a lot of us saw absolute gems that few people have ever heard of, thus getting anime creators exposure and merch gets sold. And that's the line I fed myself as I frequented the site over the years. If it wasn't for Kissanime, I never would have found Happy Sugar Life, which longtime viewers of my channel know that was life-changing for me. Season 3 of Overlord and Attack on Titan were happening at the same time it came out, so the poor thing simply wasn't big enough to make Crunchyroll in the face of those. I imagine that's what happened anyway. Perhaps this is an opportunity for me to reflect on how I go about copyrighted things, and maybe it'll have a part in a future where my cousin doesn't call me a hypocrite. Probably not, though. He lives to find my faults. Still, though, a little part of me wishes Kissanime would try to get me to play those weird games one last time. What did all that have to do with Darwin's game? Not a thing, but I appreciate you sitting through that anyway. Now, Darwin's Game is an anime about a game called Darwin's Game, so talking about these two things can get confusing, so I'll refer to the fictitious game as D-Game. First thing I noticed was the fact Darwin's Game was 11 episodes long, which made me unsure, but then I noticed episode 1 was a little over 40 minutes, which I don't mind, but that requires some planning on my part. So why this, when every other episode lasts the expected 20 to 23 minutes? First, I have to describe the events. Kaname Suda was on his phone during class when he saw an app in the App Store, D-Game. His friend tried to stop him, but it was too late. Once you click the app, you are part of the game, and there's no turning back. So what is D-Game? It's a survival game played with cell phones. Okay, now tell us why this isn't Future Diary. So the players can't tell the future, but the D-Game app does provide a spendable point system and one free superpower, sigil. Furthermore, unlike Future Diary, D-Game constantly gains players as well as loses them. It's set up to be like a real-world MMO. It even uses augmented reality and QR codes. One can buy items with the point system or straight-up trade points for real money. For a game that kills off its players, it's actually pretty fair, in some respects. It's even possible to play in a way where no one dies if you don't want to be mainstream, but moving on. It wasn't this well-thought-out premise, though, that drew me to the series in the first place. I heard there was a yandere. Yep, if you're new to my channel, just know all my longtime viewers are rolling their eyes now because they know I don't even approach an ice cream truck unless there's something creepy or cute going on. So was this specimen satisfactory? Episode 1 took about half an hour to set up before Kaname and Shuka got into a deathmatch during which she falls in love with him. He passed out, and then he woke up in a strange bed with a naked girl asking to form a group in the app in the weirdest way possible. And that is why episode 1 lasted so long. Someone was bound and determined to make this strong first impression. It was a rather clunky way to go about it, but as usual, no one thought to ask my opinion. But at least we have a satisfying yandere. Now she just needs more screen time. Blasted thing wanted to focus on Kaname, which would be absolutely fine if he were an interesting character. His appearance and personality is about as new and exciting as finding a penny on a sidewalk, but plain though he may be, he is worth talking about. He has proven to be a good strategist, and I always nod with approval when a superpower respects E=mc², but I'm a little concerned that the game started to break him early. On a date with Shuka later on, he thought to himself, outside the game, she's just a normal girl. And I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. No, my boy, she is not normal outside the game either. Placing a person you care about in your bed to nurse them back to health is one thing. Sleeping naked with that person's body probably every night until he woke up is slightly crossing a line. I don't think she ever learned why you were shocked to wake up to her. The woman's a Looney Tune, but it's not a yandere's common sense that makes her lovable, now is it? But what truly broke a perfectly good anime for me, and the reason I decided to make a video about this, was the final battle. If there is one part of your series you don't want to lose your viewer, it is the final battle. You can lose your viewer in the cliché bath scene. You can lose your viewer during an internal monologue that lasts a few minutes. But you never want to lose your viewer in the final battle, and this is where the series lost me. See, in an earlier episode, he explains to someone encouraging him to kill that he has only made it that far because he hadn't killed anyone. This was presented in a way to make me believe the writer genuinely believed that morals should be upheld, even in a horrific survival game. During the final fight, Kissanime determined the only way to go about the matter was to shoot down everyone who is aligned with his enemy. And I'm not blaming the character. He had just looked in a box of best friend bits, but he stated the need to kill when necessary in such a way that it sounded like the writer's viewpoint was there's no sense holding to moral behavior if you want results. I suppose I have my indecisive days too. Between this and the bad guy's minions, they are the most incompetent creatures since the green-shelled Koopa. Do you see the man killing your teammates? Yes. Do you have a gun? Yes. Do you not like him killing your friends? No. Would you like to attempt to use the gun to stop him from killing your teammates? No, I want to have an internal monologue about how horrifying he looks when killing my teammates. Well, that's not going to. Oh, and you're dead. And we need to replace one of the themes. Characters go on about how the sigils are tempting, and the D-game mascot is a snake, so hopefully everyone concluded one of the themes is temptation of power, which is a theme that breaks before it's even presented. No one playing D-game is allowed to tell anyone else about the true nature of D-game on punishment of death. How the game masters keep up with possible hidden messages is beyond me, but they mind-controlled a whole city to clear out so they can host an event, so let's just assume they can. A company that can bestow superpowers, teleport people at will, and mind-control a city, and the writer still wants me to believe they can achieve something in secret by hosting this game. Not gonna say there's nothing left for them to achieve just because I can't imagine it, but I will admit that I feel very, very doubtful. Honestly though, this isn't a bad concept. I think Darwin's game would make a better video game than an anime. There's worthwhile characters to play as and fight against, and there are enough steps to take per plan to make worthwhile missions leading up to major fights. It would be a pretty short game though.